Happy Wednesday, everyone, and thank you for attending the FreightWaves North American Logistics Tech Summit today. I'm actually chatting with Shalene Diogen, the Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Schneider National. Today, we're going to be diving into a different, more focused area of technology that isn't always addressed, but I think very, very important, especially today, and that's in-cab technologies. We're going to be talking about the technology that improves the lives of drivers, makes them more efficient, makes their operations more efficient, and really at the end of the day, makes their driving opportunities a lot more safer. Shalene, could you please introduce yourself to our audience and describe your tenure at Schneider?
Well, good afternoon, Grace, and thank you for having me. It's good to meet you. I've been at Schneider for a little over a decade. My current role at Schneider is I have accountability for leading our great technology and engineering as Chief Information Officer.
Perfect. So you're the perfect person for us to talk to today, especially when we're looking into technologies that large trucking companies are focusing on and really trying to improve within their own four walls. As an investor and as an executive leader in this industry, what are different types of in-cab technologies that you think are becoming more popular and more necessary in this day and age?
So, Grace, as I was getting ready for this conversation, I sort of recollect. It was about 3 years ago that I was talking to one of your associates. I think it was JP, as we had made an investment in platform science. I think it was about 3 years ago, and at that point we were talking about, hey, the industry is moving from uh, purposeful built appliances, more hardware centric ecosystem to this software based marketplace where you could produce content that would serve the driver, that would serve them by increasing their productivity, by taking away distractions, by helping them improve work-life balance and improve overall safety for all stakeholders in this ecosystem. So, from that point, if I look at, some of the things we were talking about then, and I fast forward to this afternoon, it's amazing the rate and pace of change that has happen in this space, right? So we absolutely moved away from the appliance, the closed ecosystem to the more open ecosystem. Then we moved through this. Hey, there's an app for everything, and producing apps by the dozen, surrounding the driver with apps that are a mile high and a mile wide, and and creating opportunities to increase all to getting value to the driver. I think where we're now, the phase that I see us entering now is where we've got those great platforms there. How do you leverage the data that we're producing and that we continue to produce at an amazing rate and harness the power of data to actually make decisions that enable us to improve driver productivity and driver safety? So it's really contextualizing all this information and bringing it all together. And I think that's the phase that we're in currently.
I love that. Clearly we're FreightWaves, so we love data and we love to get our hands on all of it. So I love that you guys are focused on really using that to your advantage at Schneider. Could you describe to me a couple of areas that data has helped you improve the driver performance, or really just improve the abilities or training of drivers, and just made them better drivers overall?
Yes, and again, as I said, I believe we're at the top of the second innings. Really, the best is yet to come, but we're already seeing great benefits. I talked about the rate and pace of change, right? I was just in a conversation with one of our senior leaders in engineering, line haul engineering, and we were talking about the fact that the new tractors that are rolling off the lots now have 27 different computer systems in them. What do these computer systems do? They all spin out data at an amazing pace. Now, how do you then leverage this data to say, hey, look, I've got a driver that's in the cab, and now I have the ability to predict an event that's about to happen and maybe flash something on the screen that says, hey, you have a problem with this component, this mechanical component in the cab. The opportunity is not just to tell the driver by turning a light on in the dash. The idea is, yes, there is a problem, but here's what you do. Do I stop and pull over? Do you continue to drive till you get to an operating center and have it looked at? So that ability to provide a little more context to the driver as opposed to just spitting that data as the machine produces it is where we're seeing value, right? It's allowed the driver to say, hey, I'm a new driver. I see this light flashing on my dash, but I'm also getting context to say, hey, the light's flashing, but you're okay. Keep doing what you're doing. Wait till you get to this, a point in time, and then you can get it fixed. Or as opposed to, hey, you know what? This is a problem. You need to pull off the highway right now. So I think that context has created opportunities that have made our drivers safe, our fleet more safe, and that's just and as I said, we continue to see improvements in that space. So that's one aspect of really leveraging the power of data in that ecosystem, right? And in addition to that, we've always talked about our whole network-based business. We run a network-based business, which is really driven from the zeros and ones that our moving assets are producing. Every single day, there's about over 5 terabytes of data that we're deriving, right, from our assets. The ability to bring that data to make decisions, whether those decisions are safety decisions, and being able to make decisions before an event, to be able to predict and prescribe, is where we're seeing the biggest opportunity. And that's really what we're super excited about, because I think in the end, at a macro level, it makes our roads safer, it makes our drivers safer, and it makes them more productive as well. And so those are the areas that we're most excited about.
I love that example, because just think about all of the opportunities you saved in regards to optimization. That driver gets to continue his hours. He doesn't have to pull off the road in an area he's probably not familiar with to find someone who could take a look at his cab that he hopes has the parts there to be able to fix it. Your customer gets their product delivered on time. You're able to get that truck up and running in an appropriate amount of time. There's just even optimizing the equipment alone, that data saved hours and hours of time. So that's I think a perfect example of why this is important.
Absolutely, Grace. And you nailed it really with the way you just articulated it. Driving is hard enough. It's a hard profession. It's a noble profession. It's a hard profession. So our goal is, hey, is there anything I can do? We want the drivers to focus on driving and take away any need for any other distractions. I mean, for the longest time, all of us would ask the driver, hey, what are you doing now? What are you going to do next? I mean, those are things now that technology makes possible. I know the work the driver's doing. I know which jurisdiction they're doing it from. I don't need to bother the driver with those kinds of questions when I can deduce that based on some of these platforms and some of these technologies in the cab. And that's the other place where there's a lot of irritants that we've been able to sort of remove from the day in the life of a driver, which is hard enough. Well, with everything else that goes with it. So we're again, as I said, we're still at the top of the second innings. There is still a lot to do, and our drivers keep giving us feedback on how when things don't work. But that's what our constant we're constantly sort of driving towards. No pun intended.
Yeah, right. It's hard to not do in this industry. So I love that you brought up the driver's feedback. I think that's one area where a lot of smaller companies are fearful of adding these type of technologies in their cabs because they fear the driver's reaction, which I think is completely changing nowadays. But could you describe really the feedback that you've gotten from drivers, even if the good and the bad, and how it's helped you improve your operations?
Yeah, and our drivers have been superb. They've been very complimentary, and they have critiqued us with gusto when we deserved it. So I think that is a part and parcel of the game. And in this world, right, when we're trying to be agile, we're trying to get to a minimal viable product, get it out and into the driver's hands to see what it is. So I take the good and the bad. I think there are areas that you cite where the drivers were absolutely uncomfortable, and without getting into A, B, or C, I can tell you there were some things that we decided to say, hey, look, we believe there was a benefit, but the irritant is more than the benefit. So let's sort of table it and let's get to discussing this at a later time. At other points, it's just general usage, right? And you're talking about a tablet in the cab. It's the ability, user experience that you have, right? I mentioned at the start of this conversation that 2 years ago, when everybody started to move to this software-based marketplace, the marketplace was flooded with apps, right? There's an app for everything. So in the end, if you have 50 apps that you're throwing at the driver, that sort of almost has a negative effect on what you're trying to sort of solve. You make the problem worse, right? So I think the ability to present work to the driver in a contextual fashion, right? It's almost like a sports center sort of a view saying, I know the work you're doing. I'm going to push the information to you that's relevant to your context. I'm going to push information to you as you perform your work. I'm not going to give you information that's useless to and non-pertinent to the work that you're doing. And then that's really where we've seen the biggest impact and the biggest sort of positive feedback that we've seen. And that's what we'll continue to sort of work towards.
Definitely. It's literally the opposite of being invasive. So I love that you have really pushed and marketed that way, because that's what it is. It's the ability for us to just let you drive, and we'll contact you when we absolutely need to. Do you feel like this technology is helping you guys recruit and retain drivers? I know that's all we're hearing across the board in regard to truckload is, where are these guys? How do we hire more? Do you feel like your drivers are staying on board because they have this tech?
We, and the reason we believe, Grace, if we provide a best-in-class driver experience, I think that goes a long way in sort of retaining drivers. As I said, it's a hard profession. Any little piece that alleviates the pain helps. So absolutely, we want Schneider to be a destination for the best of the very best, and we want to make sure that we're providing the most efficient, frictionless experience in the cab that the industry has to offer. And that's the goal we set for ourselves. And that's the goal we continuously sort of wake up every morning trying to get at. And we continue to do that. But we do believe that with these things, maybe each one of these things in its own probably helps a little bit, but when put together, they do make a substantial difference in creating that sort of experience that I keep referring to.
Yeah, I think I always think about, if we were to look back during the ELD mandate and tell people, hey, a couple years from now, you'd be surprised what else is in your cab. I think a lot more people would have quickly initiated those into their trucks a lot sooner, knowing that it's not about being invasive. It's about helping you guys do the best you can and helping you drive. That's what you guys do best, and gals, right? So I really appreciate your time today. Great insight for everyone watching today. And I'm excited to hear from you in the future and see what other technologies you have coming down the pipeline.
It's been great talking to you, Grace, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Talk soon.